Hello, it's Friday, March 20th, 2020, um, and I wanted to remember about all the cats that I've had in my life. Um, I love animals, and including dogs, but because I've traveled so much in my life, it was easier for me to have cats. So I've had cats. When I was a little boy growing up in Dalton, just south of Chicago, I remember we had a cat named King Size. It was a big cat. Um, and her name was King Size, but she was a mouser. She would, especially in the autumn when the weather started getting chilly, she would catch mice either in the house or in the garage. Or she was both an indoor and an outdoor cat when I was growing up, and she was frequently pregnant. And I remember on more than one occasion she would go out into the fields near our house, and she would have a litter of kittens. And then, when they were old enough or whatever, she would pick them up by the nape of their neck in her mouth and bring them one by one into the house or the garage or wherever. Um, so that was King Size, and she was a wonderful cat. I remember her very fondly. Then, when I was older, uh, at university, I remember I had a cat. I was studying in Texas, and I had a cat named Gottlieb because I had been in a play called The Firebugs by Max Frisch, and I played the part of Gottlieb Biederman. So I named my cat Gottlieb. And somewhere I have a photo of my good college buddy. Um, uh, I can't remember her name, but she was a very good friend, Julie, Julie Lappington. And in the photo, she's throwing Gottlieb as a kitten up in the air playfully, and the cat was enjoying it. I remember, and so there's a photo somewhere of her doing that. Then, when I lived in Chicago, um, oh, in the late 80s, I had this friend. His name was Carl. Carl was a young hippie. Uh, I don't think I ever saw Carl when he wasn't high on marijuana. Always. He was wonderful. Hair down to here and granny glasses and all. I mean, he was definitely a throwback to the 60s and all. But he was only in his 30s, maybe. Well, one day he came knocking at my door, and he had this tiny little kitten in his hands. His cat had had a litter of kittens, and Carl was going about the business of finding homes for all of these cats. Well, he knocked on my door unexpectedly, unannounced, and said, "Ta-da, here's your kitten." Okay, thanks, Carl. So, I had this cat, and I decided that I wanted to give her a good lesbian name. So I went to, it was a Saturday, I remember. This was in the late 80s, early 90s. And I went to the Gerberhardt Library, which was on the north side of Chicago. At that time, I think it was still on Sheffield. It's been on at different locations around the city. And I got there, I think just right before they were closing, and I was a little out of breath. And I went in and I said, my friend Carl just gave me this wonderful little kitten, and I've decided that I want to give her a really good lesbian name. Can you help me, with any good names from LGBT history, lesbian history? And so we thought about Natalie Barnay and Radcliffe Hall, and Radcliffe would have been nice, But I settled on the name of Pythia, an ancient Greek oracle, I think she was, from the island of Lesbos or somewhere. Pythia was her name. Well, so I named my cat Pythia, and they wrote about that. That story is in the Gerber Hart archives. Anyway, it's a true story. So Pythia was a little difficult to pronounce, so I nicknamed her Thea. That was her name, Thea, Thea. And she was wonderful. I had her for many, many years. First, when I lived up in the second floor of that four flat on Newport Avenue. Then, when I moved downstairs, I brought her down there. And I remember when I was moving from upstairs to downstairs, she was full grown by then. She got out. She escaped during the move and all, and I couldn't find her, and I looked in the old apartment, I looked in the new apartment, and I couldn't find her, and I'm crying, and I went up and down the alley behind the flat and all, and I'm crying, oh, there, and I heard in the alleyway, she was cowering behind the garage, and she was frightened, and I didn't think I was that attached to her, but I was. So I brought her in and all. And I stayed another 2 years in that new flat. I do remember she only had claws on her back feet and all. And I had a waterbed. And I'm pretty sure one of those claws pierced the waterbed mattress and all. Oops, oh well. And then I moved to with her, my friend Michael and I became roommates up in Uptown. So I moved her there, and Michael had a dog named Mr. Bubble, a friendly little dog, big and stupid, wonderful dog. But Thea was not happy to share a flat with the dog and all, and she let me know it too. And then after Michael died, I moved into this little studio farther up in Edgewater, I think it was. And then my friend Jeffrey invited me to go to Indianapolis, where he was starting a online gay porno business. So I was entrepreneurial, so I went along to help him wire the house and set up the webcams and all of that stuff and all. Well, I brought Thea with me, and I was there a couple of months. I don't know what year it was, right before the new millennium and all of that, in the late 90s. And Thea was sick. She developed, it was stomach cancer. And I always told her, don't get sick because I can't afford, to, have surgery for her or anything like that. I took her to a wonderful veterinarian in Indianapolis, and she was diagnosed with stomach cancer, and surgery was not an option, and they euthanized her in Indianapolis. And I remember and I cried so much and all. I mean, she was my good companion for 6-7 years or more, 9, nearly 10 years. She was a really good cat. And they sent me a sympathy card afterwards, I remember, and I really appreciated that gesture. And then most recently, then I traveled all around the world teaching English and all, and I couldn't really have a cat because I was so mobile and nomadic and all, But when I was in Spain, I was there for 3 years, and what was her name? Belaine. She was the coordinator of services for the LGBT senior non-governmental organization that provided me with subsidized housing in Madrid. Her cat had kittens, and I received one of her kittens, and I gave him a really good Spanish name, Sancho, from Don Quixote, named after Sancho Panza, Don Quixote's squire. And again, I think I have photos of Sancho arriving as a tiny little kitten and all, and then growing up and all. And then when Nico became my caregiver, I don't think Nico liked cats very much at first and all, but he and Sancho became very good friends and all. I remember I used to use the expression about Sancho, "Come here, you little bastard." And to hear Nico say that in his with his Ukrainian accent was very funny. "Come here, you little bastard." So I couldn't bring Sancho with me when I came here to Ireland, but I left him with in good care with Nico, Paco, and Brenda. So I know he's well looked after there in Madrid. So those are the stories of my cats. Stay fabulous.